People who ran away from home, how did you do it? My father forced all the women in our house to stand perfectly still as living statues for hours every day because he believed women were too emotional and chaotic and needed to be trained into silence and stillness. Dad started this when I was 9 after Mom laughed too loudly at something on TV and he backhanded her. He said women's voices and movements were manipulative performances designed to control men. First, it was just 10 minutes after dinner where me, Mom, and my sister had to stand frozen in the living room while he watched TV around us. If he saw us breathe too deeply or shift our weight, he'd add another 10 minutes. Mom's feet would turn purple from standing, but she never moved. She knew what happened when we moved. The time requirements grew every week. 20 minutes became an hour, which became 3 hours. We had to hold whatever position he put us in. Arms raised on one foot, bent at weird angles that made our muscles scream. He'd arrange us like furniture around the room and invite his friends over to admire his training methods. They'd drink beer and comment on how well behaved we were while we stood there trying not to pass out. I found out what would happen if I tried to rebel by deliberately falling over during a session. Dad dragged me to the garage and made me stand there for 6 hours with my arms stretched above my head, tied to a beam. When I finally collapsed, he added another 6. This is what happens when females think they can do whatever they want, he said while tying me back up. You move when I say you can move. After that, I learned to lock my knees and zone out, to go somewhere else in my head while my body turned to stone. My sister developed a tremor in her hand from the stress, just a tiny shake she couldn't control. Dad saw it as deliberate defiance and made her stand with heavy books balanced on her outstretched arms. When the tremor made them fall, he'd stack them higher. She started sleeping standing up because lying down made the morning sessions harder. I'd find her propped in the corner of her room at night, eyes closed but still vertical, practicing being furniture even in her dreams. We all tried escaping in different ways. Mom attempted to get help during a grocery run, but Dad had already told everyone she was bipolar and making up stories. When she tried to explain about the standing, they just nodded sympathetically and called him to pick her up. I faked illness so convincingly I ended up in the hospital, but Dad told the doctors I was attention-seeking. They sent me home with pills that made it harder to balance during statue time. My sister ran away but only made it 12 hours before Dad tracked her down and brought her home. After each escape attempt, the rules got worse. Now we had to hold objects while standing. Vases full of water that would shatter if we dropped them. Lit candles that would burn us if our hands shook. He installed cameras to watch us when he wasn't home and hired his brother to supervise longer sessions. We stood through birthdays, holidays, even when my grandmother died. Dad said female grief was just manipulation and made us stand through her funeral reception while relatives ate around us. Mom's body started giving out. She'd been doing 12-hour sessions and her circulation was failing. Her legs swelled with fluid and turned black at the toes, but she kept standing because the alternative was worse. Dad saw her deterioration as progress. She's finally learning her place, he told visitors. Soon she'll be the perfect woman, completely still and silent. He increased her sessions to 16 hours, then 20. Then one day he just never told her to stop. She'd been standing in the corner of the living room for 3 days straight. Her eyes didn't focus anymore and she'd soiled herself twice, but she couldn't move. Dad brought people by to admire his accomplishment. 3 days without female nonsense, he bragged. She's finally achieved perfect submission. He was planning a celebration to showcase what he called the first successfully trained woman. He told me and my sister we'd be joining Mom permanently. He showed us the medical equipment he'd bought online, 4 drips for hydration so we could stand longer without dying, catheters so we wouldn't need bathroom breaks, feeding tubes for nutrition. You'll stand until you forget you ever wanted to move, he said. Days, weeks, whatever it takes to fix you. He'd already picked our spots in the living room, marked with tape on the floor. My sister couldn't stop crying, but I'd been preparing. While standing still all these months, I'd been watching Dad, memorizing his routines. I knew he took sleeping pills that knocked him out for exactly 6 hours. I knew where he kept the keys to Mom's chains because yes, he'd chained her feet to the floor on day 2. I knew his friends were coming for the celebration, but I also knew where he kept the gasoline for the generator and how the locks worked on all the doors. That night, while he was unconscious and Mom stood there trapped in her own body, I found out if statues could burn. Because he wanted 3 living statues, but I decided he'd settle for one house full of ash. Full story on the channel below.